What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I'm bringing you an extra spicy update to White Forest. Now before I get started, massive shout out to Lucy who actually inspired me to put this deck together. They were playing a build like this, but they were using the Centurion package instead. So what this one is, as a bit of a preview, is a very spicy concoction that utilizes the Yugioh Temple alongside some of the Millenium monsters in order to give you more continuous spells that you can send with your White Forest monsters, as well as access to boss monsters that can help you either OTK your opponent or just help you work your way into different level of synchro monsters. So with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. Diving headfirst into the profile to show you exactly what we've got. We're starting off with the White Forest monsters with 3 Estella of the White Forest, and I'm personally playing 2 Millenium, which of course can search out LZ, but you're probably going to be using it to search out your Estella more times than not. Now the reason we use the Millenium is it technically gives you more access to your starters. You're basically paying 5 copies of Estella, and if you already have Estella and you don't want to be paying half your life points, you just use this as send fodder for the spell and trap effects of all of your other White Forest monsters. Then of course we are playing at triple LZ, so everyone should know what the White Forest cards do for now, as I have done quite a few profiles on them. So if you want to go back and check out what each of the individual cards do in depth, then by all means please do so. But the idea is that LZ is your extender. This is your one that allows you to play through a lot more. Your Estella is the one that lets you search out cards like LZ, or of course, special summon out cards like Sylvie. And then your LZ is ways that you can either search out an Estella as your follow-up, or of course you search out your Rusia as your extender. Speaking of which, another one of your stars is of course going to be triple Sylvie, so that when you combo this off with the Millenium, which also counts as your starter, you're then looking at 8 baseline starters, not to mention cards like LZ that can help you get going, and of course some of your toy box cards as well. So your Sylvie on normal or special lets you add a White Forest spell or trap, so that's how you're going to be able to search out something like Tails, which can then get you to an LZ, or of course you can search out Woes, which is your more defensive and synchro during your opponent's turn card. The last one we play is the one Rusia, so this is obviously the free extender as long as you control a White Forest monster, and then it lets you send a spell or trap to draw 1 card. So you can refresh cards after you've already used the Yugioh Temple, for example, and then the version that Lucy was playing was also using the Centurion cards, and the reason that they did that is because it allowed you to get access to the the counter trap for Centurions, which is a nice little option. I've decided as a preview to go down the Millenium route, but it did kind of give you access to level 12 synchros a little bit more consistently. So when I show you the Millenium in the extra deck, you can very easily sub that out for the level 12 Dark Centurion monster, and that is another option for you. I'm also playing the Toy Box engine. I don't know if you still need this alongside the Yugioh Temple engine, but I still just like what this offers. I do like the idea of possibly playing some rank 4s in the extra deck as well. It really does come down to personal preference, but I really do love the ability of normal summon a Stellar effect, send Toy Soldier or Toy Tank as cost, and then be able to trigger their effects, so it allows you to keep going. Obviously, Toy Soldier searches you out your toy box, but then if you don't need that, it can very easily search you out a level 4 light, and then that's how you're going to be able to go into stuff along the lines of the Aritama, the Spirit of Aritara, which lets you summon it for pretty much as an additional normal summon, or of course you can search yourself out the Rusia as an extender if you need it, which is your tuner. Then for the Yugioh Temple / Millenium engine, we're playing 3 Yugioh Temple, 3 of the Senjin, and 1 of the Golem. Now the reason that I've decided to go with this particular lineup rather than the Shield is that we're not relying on Ankh. You could if you want to, because then you could very easily just go, okay cool, get to Ankh, 1 card, push for an OTK, but the chances are, because you're not playing Ankh, you're definitely going to be paying 2,000 life points to summon either of these monsters. Now the way that this really works is you activate the Yugioh Temple. Yugioh Temple puts a monster from your hand into the spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous spell. So straight away it can turn cards like Effect Veilers, Nibiru's, any other monsters that you can't get out of your hand into face-up continuous spell cards, and then it gives you access to ideally the Senjin, because then by doing so you can pay 2,000 life points, summon out a 2750 boss monster that will also allow you to search out the Golem. You can then put the Golem into the spell and trap zone as a face-up continuous spell. Again, it becomes free fodder. Or if you want to summon it as a 2k boss monster, again, you pay the cost of 2,000 life points to summon it out, and it will search you out a Yugioh Temple, which again gives you another spell. So each one basically replaces itself to become either a spell or another monster on the board. You can play the level 4 Maiden, which allows all of your illusion monsters to be untargeted, but that card only summons itself from the spell and trap zone if an opponent activates an effect. So I kind of felt that I'd be a bit better using these cards that could be utilized as extenders as well as aggressors to kind of help you get where you need to go. Now, obviously, what you need to keep in mind is if you're going to be utilizing these, you're only really going to be using this as synchro fodder, and you're only ever going to be doing that for like 1 or 2 cards. This one is less so level 10s that are that effective for you right now. The best one you can go for is Cheng Ying. And even then, that will rely on you having cards banish or being able to banish on an effective basis. So I kind of felt that I would go less on that one and probably use these as link fodder if I was going first more than anything else. And then for the hand traps, triple Nibiru, 1 effect Veiler because it's searchable alongside your level 6 synchro. But again, you can play more if you want to. The 1 Iris Sword Soul, I still really like this because this plus the Senjin can make you a rank 8, which means you now no longer need to link off your synchro monster of your queen. And leaving queen on the board can still be very damaging for your opponent because then that can give you access to the shrimp, which pops the back row, and then it allows you to synchro further forward into something else that you might want. I'm then still maining the Dominus Purge. Now this has less clashes now that we're not using the Horus engine. If you wanted to go back to use the Horus package, by all means you could do. So this one only stops you using Dark, Water and Fire. So that's really only going to be effective for the extra deck. It's also why we don't really have Ash Blossom, because I kind of see that this takes the place of Ash Blossom or does the same job for it. But really comes down to personal preference. I do just kind of like this option because it's a hand trap that can be utilized as spell and trap fodder, as well as a card that could be reset off of the back of your queen and everything else in between. And then also playing 3 Infinite Impermanence, of course, best hand trap that is a spell and of course a trap that can be sent with your White Forest monsters. Then it really is up to you whether you want to main deck a card like Evenly Matched, whether you want to main deck a card like Forbidden Droplet. It kind of gives you that option for going second, and it has a bit more effect because less people are expecting it. But it does clash with the Nibiru, so it's kind of one of the ones where would I rather play Nibiru in this current format in the main deck, or would I rather main an Evenly Matched? And I felt that with something like Nibiru, it gives you a bit more crack back in a grind game, whereas Evenly Matched, it kind of just gets harder and harder to play the later the game goes on. And the last 3 cards that I'm playing is the 1 Called by the Grave, the 1 Millenium Reframing, and of course the 1 Angel Statue. Now again, these are 2 cards you could side out because these are obviously only going to be effective in the grind game when you're able to set up the board, or of course going first. So that's again when you might want to consider Evenly Matched. But on the same scenario, these are both spells that can be, I keep saying spells and traps, but these are both traps that can be sent off of your White Forest cards. And then of course you can reset them with your queen, and it's very easy to recycle all of your White Forest extra deck monsters. So that's it for the entire main deck. Moving on to the extra deck. So for the extra deck, pretty standard lineup in regards to the White Forest cards. So of course we're going to be playing the 1 Sylvia, the 1 Recelia, and of course the 1 Queen. All of these you only need to play at 1 because you're going to be recycling them very easily. So you've got your Book of Eclipse monster in the form of the Sylvia, you've got your Searcher in the form of the Recelia, and then of course you've got the Queen, which is going to allow you to recycle from the graveyard, as well as when your opponent activates a card effect, you get to special summon a Tuner Synchro from the extra deck, which is really important because then that can lead you into loads of other synchro plays, whether it be a Herald of the Arc Light or whether that be into something along the lines of a level 10 Chaos Angel. So then of course what we move into is the dark. So these are highlights, these are the cards that will be affected by the Dominus Purge. So you can, if you do activate them, you're not going to be making these. But the idea is, and I just still really like the combo of being able to go into Mud Dragon and then fuse into an Albion and then get into a Dragoon, just because it upgrades on the Gen X. The Gen X was only able to deal with light and darks, whereas Dragoon becomes an Omni-Negate that can't be targeted and then just gets stronger and stronger as it goes. So it really does cause your opponent a lot of issues if they can't get rid of it. And then for the rest of the synchros, we do play the 1 Zapper Shrimp, which can lead you into Herald of the Arc Light. And then we are following this up with the 1 Visas Aritara, because this can very easily be level 8 overlay fodder, but it also helps you get into the Reframing, which again, if you're setting up a Dragoon plus a counter trap, and then you also will have the Diabell Queen, and you're either leaving the Visas Aritara on the board or you're overlaying into a rank 8, which can be a Hope Harbinger, it just gets harder and harder for your opponent to try and break or to deal anything. And then for the other synchros, or the final 2 synchros, playing the 1 Chaos Angel. A little bit more specific on how you make this. Obviously, it's quite easy with a Stella plus a level 8 or an LZ plus a level 8. But because we're not main decking the Bestials, which is something I might look at changing, and that's when you'd probably play the Dispatter, I feel that's kind of something where you would sacrifice your your Toy Box element, or you'll be getting rid of the Wedgwood Temple if that doesn't work for you. Personally, I still quite like the Wedgwood Temple. I just think that it just gives you so much more aggressive options than the Toy Box. But it's whether you play one or the other or both, and that's still something that I need to test out. The last synchro that we play, which is the level 12 of choice, is the Brave. Now the reason I've gone with this, of course you can go for the Centurion. I just really like the fact that I can put this in defense, and it's a 4k attacker in defense, which is absolutely mental. Not to mention that it gives you the ability to recycle your hand as well a little bit, or just draw you 3 new cards. So in the grind game, it can be quite helpful. So it basically just acts as a very nice boss monster of 4k, which is the strongest of all of the cards in the extra deck. But it really does come down to personal preference. Like, you can very easily cut this out. This is your Chengying. You can cut it out and it can go, of course, like I've said, into the Centurion. It can go into the Dark Centurion, which lets you set up the counter trap. So it really is up to you. You've got flex spots there. I just quite like the idea of using this. And the last 3 cards we play is the one Typhoon. You can very easily change this out if you want to. This can be an Abyss Dweller. It could be a Baguska. It really is up to you. And the last 2 I've got is the one Silo Hat Rabbit and then the one Boral Sword. Again, just to kind of help you with OTK, but you might not actually really need it, because more times than not, your synchros will get the job done for you. So again, it's another one of them flex options depending on what you want to have access to. But I kind of like the idea that I was always going to be bringing out the Millennium monsters. And I kind of felt that they might not always be as effective going as synchro material, but they could be very good as going to generic link material. So of course you can very easily make an SP Little Knight, but ideally you want to be making an SP Little Knight during your opponent's turn so that you're not affected by the fact you can't attack directly. And then it also would give you a bit more of an option to put in an IP Masquerena here. And then the idea is you'd go IP using one of your monsters to go into an SP, and then you'll be able to get the banish off as well. So that's something you could very easily consider in these 2 spots here. Like I said, you've got a lot of flexibility with some of these cards in the extra deck. The only ones that are like pure staple is of course the 3 White Forest cards. After that, it comes down to whether you actually like the Dragoon route. And if you don't like the Dragoon route because you want to make it less cards, you'd go for the Gen X option with the zombie monster that lets you send from deck to grave. But the other is a Dark Tuner. But like I said, these are the only 3 staples in my opinion that you must play. Everything else then comes down to personal preference and just kind of what you want from the deck. Do you want Omni Negates? Do you want counter traps? Do you want boss monsters? Really is up to you. So that is pretty much it for the entire profile. If you do have any questions at all, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And of course, massive shout out to Lucy, who inspired me to put this build together. I really did like the synergy that it had the first time we ended up playing. And then I saw it again in a little bit more depth that they played it again today. And I feel that the Centurions can add a little bit to it, but I'm not sure they're absolute necessity. So that's something that I wanted to kind of put my own personal spin on and see how it worked this way. And I really am quite enjoying it. So we'll see how it goes with a little bit more testing as to whether or not you need Toy Box and the Wedgio engine, or whether you like personally feel that one is more than enough. You can also consider stuff like Forbidden Drop that can be massively helpful as well. So that's something you might want to be looking into as well. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and of course, happy dueling.